Part 1. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Recaps from the prequels recall Mace Windu discussing Qui-gon Jinn's assertion that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one of prophecy who will bring balance to the Force. After seeing Anakin in the podrace, Qui-gon introduces him to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan inquires as to why Qui-gon doesn't sense the danger in Anakin that the rest of the Jedi Council senses. As Obi-Wan is already Qui-gon's Padawan learner, and not yet a Jedi Knight, Yoda refuses to let the latter take on a second apprentice in Anakin. During the battle with Darth Maul, Qui-gon is fatally injured before Obi-Wan avenges his master. Before dying, Qui-gon tells Obi-Wan to promise he will train Anakin, and Obi-Wan agrees. Yoda and the Council grant Obi-Wan the rank of Jedi Knight and allow him to train Skywalker. As Anakin grows, he expresses his admiration for his masters Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Mace. We are shown briefly Obi-Wan's first encounter with Jango Fett, Anakin's secret romance with Padme Amidala, and Palpatine's praise of Anakin's skills, before a scene showing Anakin on a speeder bike en route to avenging his mother. After being granted the rank of Jedi Knight, Anakin expresses confusion over his path with Padme. He tells her that he wants more power, but as a Jedi he knows he was taught that he should not desire it. As he discusses the ways of the Force with Palpatine, Anakin discovers that the former can teach him the ways of the dark side. Anakin's dream of Padme dying with Obi-Wan by her side drives him to turn to the dark side, assuming the new title Darth Vader. Yoda tells Obi-Wan that his apprentice is gone, although Obi-Wan stands firm that he will not kill Anakin. In the Battle of the Heroes on Mustafar, Obi-Wan admits to Anakin that he failed him. Later at the high ground, Anakin's overconfidence causes him to lose his legs and arms as he tries to attack. Obi-Wan laments over Anakin's betrayal of all those he loved. Before leaving him to die, Darth Sidious arrives with some clone troopers to recover Darth Vader, still alive and gravely injured. He is affixed with robotic limbs and the black mechanical breathing apparatus. As Padme gives birth to the twins, she tells Obi-Wan that there is good in Anakin before dying. During her funeral on Naboo, voiceover recalls the conversation between Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Bail Organa to keep the children safe, away from where the Sith can sense their presence. Organa agrees to adopt the girl, Leia, as that was a plan he had with his wife. Obi-Wan is advised by Yoda to bring the boy, Luke, to his family on Tatooine. Obi-Wan gives the baby to Beru Lars, Anakin's stepsister-in-law, and agrees to isolate himself to the planet in order to protect Luke. Yoda speaks of training he has for Obi-Wan on Tatooine, how to commune with his old master. Open the show on Coruscant as a Jedi named Velty trains younglings in forms. Clone troopers show up and immediately begin to shoot at the children and their teacher. Luckily, Velty is quick with her lightsaber, and takes out the troopers before leading the younglings away. The camera follows them through the temple as more troopers engage more Jedi, slowly picking them off while Velty continues to guard her younglings. She is eventually shot to death, but not before she takes out her own assassin. The younglings gather around Velty's body, terrified. The children decide to run as more Jedi fight the invading clones, while Palpatine's voice echoes execute Order 66. Title screen. The story picks up 10 years later on Tatooine. The citizens of a spaceport city watch as a strange spacecraft lands. Out walks the Imperial Grand Inquisitor, with 2 lieutenants. The people stand silently as the 3 walk toward a saloon. The general has the bartender identify them as Inquisitors, there to hunt Jedi. He explains how Jedi leave a trail of compassion, which makes them detectable to Inquisitors, going on to repeat a rumor that there is a Jedi hiding in the bar. He talks about how perhaps this Jedi is protecting the saloon from burglars or other riffraff in exchange for sanctuary. Another Inquisitor suddenly throws a knife, which is stopped by the unnamed Jedi sitting openly at a table, his face and hands fully exposed. With no lightsaber and limited training, the escaped youngling calls their efforts a waste of time as he is interrogated by the lieutenant, who begins to cut him with her red lightsaber. The general, a Sith Lord, forces the lieutenant away, allowing the man to escape. He scolds the lieutenant, calling her reckless. He identifies her as third sister, and reminds her that she needs to let go of her obsession with finding Kenobi, or she will be relieved of her duties. She agrees. Under Twin Suns, an encampment is built around the remains of a dead sand creature. Its body is being cut for meat by several workers, including Obi-Wan. The droid calls for end of day as Obi-Wan cuts a small piece of meat that he wraps privately before cleaning his metal blade. As one worker remarks that his pay is only half of what was promised, the foreman shoves him before intimidating Obi-Wan. He hesitates before taking his own pay and leaving on a transport back to Anchorhead. Obi-Wan feeds the meat to his parked Earpie, camel-like creature with an anteater head, before riding it back into the desert. Upon arriving at his cave, the Earpie lays down as an A2-unit surveillance camera pops up. In his home, Obi-Wan prepares his food and eats. A Jawa named Tika approaches with a miniature model space cruiser, like Luke plays with in Episode 4. Obi-Wan's vaporator makes a strange sound, and Tika immediately offers up the processor board that it needs. Obi-Wan knows he simply stole it to sell it back to him as Jawas do. Tika shows him more materials that were recovered from a Jedi's ship in the desert. Obi-Wan observes a belt that Tika says belonged to the Jedi who escaped across the Dune Sea, evading the Inquisitors. He feigns knowledge of the Jedi, pays and dismisses Tika. At night, Obi-Wan dreams of Anakin, Padme, Yoda, and Qui-gon. He calls to his master Qui-gon, but no one responds. The next morning, Obi-Wan rides his Earpie to an outpost near the Lars Moisture farm. He observes as a young Luke Skywalker runs from his adopted father Owen, who calls Beru to help him find the boy, who is simply hiding on top of their igloo hut pretending he is a pilot. They find the boy and all is well. Obi-Wan returns that evening after the power is shut down to leave the gift for Luke. As he walks away with his Earpie, Obi-Wan notices the presence of the Jedi from the saloon. He identifies himself as Nari, and presents his unlit lightsaber, calling Obi-Wan by his name. "My name is Ben," he says to Nari, who immediately relents, pleading with him over the ordeal he has gone through since Coruscant. Obi-Wan tells Nari that he has to leave lest he draw more unwanted attention. Nari tries to argue that the remaining Jedi need his help, but Obi-Wan tells him to bury the lightsaber and live a normal life, as the fight is done. Nari cannot believe what he hears, but Obi-Wan tells him the time of the Jedi is over, and that he must let it go. On the planet Alderaan, a female child is dressed in an upscale fashion by the Organa servants. Breha Organa addresses the child believing it to be Leia, but quickly notices it is a different kid. Breha knows Leia is in the woods, attended to by a small surveillance drone droid. She talks to the droid, identifying the ships as they take off. Breha finds Leia in the tree and admonishes her for her behavior. She instructs Leia to shut down the Lola droid, but Leia mischievously recovers it as she complains about upscale life as a senator's daughter. They are observed by a watcher in the woods as they return to the building. At the meat quarry, Obi-Wan again wraps a slice for his Earpie. While feeding the animal, Owen throws the gift at his feet, demanding he stay away from Luke. Obi-Wan, known as Ben, argues that Luke should know more than life on the farm. Owen calls him out on waiting to see if Luke will show, i.e. Force powers. Obi-Wan reminds him that it is his responsibility to train Luke as a Jedi when he is ready. Owen relents, reminding him that his last apprentice, Luke's father, is dead. As the Inquisitor lieutenants walk the street, Owen listens as they demand the location of the Jedi hiding on the planet. Third Sister Reva cuts off the hand of one rebellious citizen before interrogating Owen. Owen expresses his disgust of the Jedi, but Reva threatens him with a lightsaber in exchange for the location of the Jedi. Fifth Brother orders her to stand down, and later scolds her again for obsessing over finding Kenobi, when their target is supposed to be Nari. She claims she will gain what she is owed when they capture Obi-Wan. After the Inquisitor's ship leaves, Obi-Wan thanks Owen, but Owen says he didn't do it for Obi-Wan. On Alderaan, Leia arrives just in time to greet the visitors as they land. Bail Organa is pleased to see her, and inquires what ships she saw in her tree. Much to Breha's chagrin, he happily engages Leia's knowledge of the different ships. The family greets Breha's sister and Leia's much older cousin, who doesn't even acknowledge her when she greets him. In the event space, the family discusses the transition from the Old Republic to the Galactic Empire. Bail expresses his desire to end slave labor, while his brother-in-law argues that that is not the purpose for his visit. Protocol droid C-3PO is present, interpreting for other visitors. Another protocol droid, YO, serves Leia, who thanks it. Leia's cousin criticizes her for having manners with droids, and teases her for being adopted. Leia looks within him and calls him out for his fear of his father. He shuts up but later tattles on her for being disrespectful. Breha attempts to privately get Leia to apologize, but Leia refuses. Bail speaks to Leia alone and tells her of the responsibilities she will face when she becomes a senator. As Leia claims that she has no interest in being in the Senate, Bail offers that that is the attitude that would make her a great senator. When Leia tells him that she is not a real Organa, he gently opposes her, reminding her that even though she is adopted, she is as much an Organa as any. She smiles when he tells her she will get to boss her cousin around once she grows up. However, for the time being, she must humble herself and apologize. Leia goes back into the woods, where she encounters Vect and 2 mercenaries who chase her. The royal guard comes to protect Leia, but are killed as Leia is kidnapped. Obi-Wan receives an emergency transmission from the Organas, imploring him to help find Leia. Her kidnappers left no note for ransom, implying that they may know her secret. Involving the Senate would draw too much attention, and the Organas are not confident in their guard nor a bounty hunter, as none besides Obi-Wan know how important she is. Obi-Wan reminds Bail that his duty is to the boy, but Bail reminds Obi-Wan that he has a duty to the sister as well. Obi-Wan again refuses, stating that he isn't the Jedi he was 10 years ago when Leia was born. Leia is imprisoned on the mercenaries' ship. At the quarry, Obi-Wan again wraps some meat for his earpiece. Upon returning to Anchorhead, the town looks in horror as Nari hangs dead from the town's arch. When he returns to his cave, the surveillance droid alerts Obi-Wan to another's presence. It is Bail Organa. He tells Obi-Wan that the kidnappers hid their signal behind a freight transport headed for the planet Daiyu. Bail again implores Obi-Wan to help but is again rebuffed. Though Obi-Wan tries to reason his past, Bail tells him that Anakin's turn to the dark side was not his fault. He tells Obi-Wan that he trusts him to save her more than anyone. As the ship approaches Daiyu, Leia activates her Lola droid, which immediately freaks out over their predicament. As it works to cut her restraints, Vect enters her room and swiftly breaks the droid. Leia tries to threaten him, but he heartlessly tells her that no one will come for her. Obi-Wan rides his earpiece into the desert and begins digging in the sand. Amurt questions Vect's kidnapping of Leia, believing her to be a random child. Vect confidently activates a communicator. Obi-Wan uncovers a box and opens it to reveal his and Anakin's lightsabers taken after the fight on Mustafar. Vect speaks with Third Sister Reva, who is confident that Obi-Wan will come for Leia, his apprentice's daughter. At the Anchorhead spaceport, Obi-Wan gets on the ship, briefly revealing the hilt of his lightsaber. Part 2. Obi-Wan arrives on Daiyu. Though he tries to get information about the ship he was tracking, the attendant rudely tells Obi-Wan that all signals are blocked on Daiyu. People like their secrets out here, he says. As Obi-Wan walks the streets of the city, he sees people engaging in unpoliced activities like gambling and fighting. An injured clone trooper begs for spare credits on the street. Though he knows this was a clone who helped carry out Order 66, Obi-Wan gives him a credit before moving on. 2 stormtroopers, a male and female, walk the streets for no other reason than to clear a path for themselves. A spice trader, drug dealer in Star Wars universe, offers Obi-Wan some product, but he attempts to get information from her about Leia, who he calls his daughter. The trader tells him that she was once someone's daughter as well, and says that no one leaves Daiyu. She gives him some spice on the house and offers that he use it to forget about his daughter. A boy named Jaco offers to take Obi-Wan to a Jedi who he says helps people. Obi-Wan doesn't believe him, but agrees to follow. A hooded figure named Haja Astri leads a woman and her son into a room, where he waves his hand to close the shutters. Another wave of Haja's hand brings a communicator that he uses to call to a spaceport passenger check. Over the comm, he and the male contact engage in a theatrical Jedi mind trick where Haja convinces the other man to let the mother and son have safe passage to Corellia. He feigns difficulty in using the Force, but then joins the mother in praising his strength. Haja warns the mother that her son's abilities, with the Force, make him a target. After she pays him, Haja tells her that they must forget about him in the interest of his safety before dismissing them. Obi-Wan has been watching the whole time and approaches Haja, who is surprised by his presence. Obi-Wan asks his help in locating a lost girl. Haja waves his hands to once again closes the shutters. Obi-Wan sarcastically follows his lead until the scam becomes too obvious. Knowing he is caught, Haja confesses that he did rip the family off, but claims that they are safe. He agrees to help Obi-Wan. He tells Obi-Wan how to navigate the sores. Obi-Wan visits a section of town where he dons an outfit to blend in with workers in a lab that manufactures spice. Obi-Wan uses the Force to cause a diversion and enters the back area. He is immediately confronted by 2 thugs. Obi-Wan takes some hits, but manages to subdue the 2 and get the location of the girl. Obi-Wan walks in on a cell only to discover a dummy. He is ambushed by Vect and the Mercs. Vect takes Obi-Wan's lightsaber and comments that the Inquisitor, Third Sister Reva, will soon arrive and pay them. Obi-Wan uses the spice he was given earlier to choke the mercs while he puts on a gas mask and leaves them in the closed cell. Reva arrives and demands entry to the lab. Obi-Wan finds the cell holding the real Leia, and he manages to convince her to follow him out. They make it to the streets disguised, and Leia comments that her rescue would have been easier with her father's army. Expecting to find Kenobi, Reva instead finds the mercs in the dummy cell stoned out of their minds. When they remove their disguises, Leia recognizes Obi-Wan as a Jedi when she sees his lightsaber. Impulsively, Leia tries to lead him to escape, but he reminds her how dangerous this mission is, and instructs her to follow him. The Grand Inquisitor arrives with Fifth Brother and another lieutenant. He confronts Reva for kidnapping Senator Organa's child, which Reva dismisses as not the worst thing they've done. She truthfully states that she was using Leia as bait, which Fifth Brother further explains by stating that she only wishes to capture Kenobi to gain favor. Reva makes a face at him, and the Grand Inquisitor tells her that whatever power she seeks will not change her low-class beginnings with the Inquisitors. She argues that her faults are his failures. The Grand Inquisitor orders the city secured, and takes the role of capturing Kenobi for himself. He relieves Reva of her station and says she will be dealt with upon their return. Reva orders a recovered Vect to share Kenobi's face with every bounty hunter on the planet. Vect questions her motive, but all she wants to do is engage him herself. With the bounty hunters of Daiyu after Obi-Wan, he disguises himself and Leia, who is still questioning his motives. He reluctantly buys her a pair of gloves as well. Jaco notices the alert of Obi-Wan's bounty on his tablet. Leia is enamored of Daiyu, but Obi-Wan warns her not to be too curious. She likens his protective nature to her parents, as a droid bounty hunter follows them. Leia tests Obi-Wan by trying to bait him into using the Force, which he of course refuses as it would give them away. He tells her his disguised name Ben, which she immediately dismisses as not a Jedi name. Leia also questions his motives, saying he is hiding something. Jaco reports to Haja, who arms himself to hopefully find Obi-Wan before the other bounty hunters. Obi-Wan and Leia are attacked by a man who Obi-Wan quickly knocks out before telling Leia he was a bounty hunter. The Grand Inquisitor commands a garrison to Daiyu within the hour, reminding the Fifth Brother to extinguish Kenobi. He is then shown the bounty on Kenobi, and immediately knows Reva is behind it. Reva watched from a rooftop. Obi-Wan and Leia find a place to hide, and he asks what happened to Leia's droid Lola. She tells him how Vect broke the droid, and he reassures her that she will be back home and back to normal soon. She questions his use of the word normal, and Obi-Wan flips the script on her, suggesting now that maybe she is hiding her true feelings. The bounty hunter's tracker goes off, and Obi-Wan attempts to disable it. When she notices that it is an alert to find him, she realizes that she was the bait to capture him, and he didn't tell her. She begins to question even his relationship to the Organa family, but when Obi-Wan tries to explain, she runs. He gives chase through the town, and saves Leia from several bounty hunters who try to interrogate her as to his location. Leia eventually climbs up to a rooftop, and another Inquisitor and several stormtroopers follow. Reva notices a shootout between Obi-Wan and a bounty hunter while Leia hides among hanging clothes. Reva park hours across the rooftops toward their location. Obi-Wan chases Leia across the rooftops as he exchanges fire with more bounty hunters. Haja notices them on another rooftop as Obi-Wan lands a hit on one of the bounty hunters. Leia attempts to jump across a gap between two rooftops, but falls, begging Ben to help her. Obi-Wan reaches out and uses the Force to bring her down gently. He makes his way to the ground, and Leia is convinced that he is a Jedi. He walks her away as an announcement is made for transportation lockdown and all identification present for scanning. So much for people liking their secrets. Leia asks about the dark-dressed Imperial commanders, and Obi-Wan tells her the Inquisitors were once Jedi who now hunt their own kind after turning to the dark side. When they are approached by another bounty hunter, it is immediately taken out by Haja, who genuinely offers to help them. He sends them to a cargo transport that will take them to Makuzo, where they will be waiting. Obi-Wan doesn't understand, but Haja assures him that there are those who would help him. He smiles at Obi-Wan when he remembers his name. Haja gives him a card with coordinates on it, and tells him he isn't alone. Haja dons a hood to disguise himself as Obi-Wan and gives the bounty hunter another shot from his blaster. The Grand Inquisitor brutally kills Vect while interrogating him for his role in Reva's betrayal. Reva continues to parkour across the city in search of Obi-Wan, but comes upon his diversion. Haja attempts to intimidate Reva by proclaiming himself to be a Jedi, which Reva quickly surmises he is not. She engages him using the Force and extracts the location of Obi-Wan from his mind. In the cargo hold, Leia and Obi-Wan discuss their situation, and Obi-Wan tells her that she reminds him of an old friend of his, Padme, her mother. The two hide as Reva enters and lights her lightsaber. She calls out to Obi-Wan in a sing-song voice. Obi-Wan sends Leia to the ship and promises to follow her. Reva taunts Obi-Wan, promising not to kill him, but merely deliver him to Lord Vader. Obi-Wan realizes who she is talking about, and his thoughts betray him. She tells him that he survived the battle on Mustafar, and has been looking for him. As she begins to remove obstacles to find Obi-Wan, the Grand Inquisitor interrupts her and scolds her once again. Realizing he is alone, Reva impales the Grand Inquisitor on her lightsaber and taunts him as he dies. Obi-Wan uses the opportunity to escape. She shouts to Obi-Wan as he flies away in the cargo ship with Leia. Leia asks Obi-Wan if everything is okay, as Obi-Wan says the name Anakin. Darth Vader wakes up in his Bacta tank. Part 3. Open on Obi-Wan attempting to reach out to Qui-gon Jinn's Force ghost. He recalls Reva telling him Anakin lives. He hears Yoda's voice warning him of looking into the past. We see Vader being removed from his tank and affixed with his arms and legs. Obi-Wan continues to recall memories of Qui-gon telling him to promise to train Anakin, followed by Anakin's betrayal of the way of the Jedi Order. Darth Vader is armed with his suit, cape, helmet, and mask, while Obi-Wan again recalls Reva's teasing of Anakin's survival. Obi-Wan says, "He's coming, Master." Darth Vader speaks to Reva and directs her to prioritize Kenobi's capture over her search for approval by him. Vader offers her the role of Grand Inquisitor if she proves herself, but if she fails she will not live to regret it. Leia and Obi-Wan make their way along the cargo transport route. Leia asks Obi-Wan about the Force. He asks her how she feels when she's in the dark and turns on a light. She tells him she feels safe. He tells her it is like that before presenting her with a repaired Lola. Leia celebrates as the ship signals their final approach. They land on a planet in the Mapuzo system. They sneak away while droids unload the cargo ship. Obi-Wan tells Leia how the Empire destroyed their land and economy. Leia is confused because she thought the Empire did only good for the galaxy. Obi-Wan commends her father Bail Organa for working to ease the Empire into a time of peace, but reminds her that not all intentions are good. Obi-Wan is briefly distracted by what appears to be Anakin in his hooded robe, his arms crossed in front of him, completely covered except for his face. Leia calls him back to reality and they continue. A ship arrives at an Imperial outpost, where Reva enters to speak with the Inquisitor Council. She immediately suggests they send out any probes to the mining systems, as that's where she tracked the signal of the cargo ship. Fifth Brother uses the Force to hold Reva down as he reminds her that he is next in line for Grand Inquisitor. Reva tells them of her conversation with Vader and says that he had directed her to be in charge of the operation. Reva orders them to send out the probes, and Fifth Brother reluctantly agrees. 3 probe droids are activated and launched. Obi-Wan and Leia discuss their cover story as they approach the meeting point. Obi-Wan becomes mad when he realizes that no one is meeting them there. Leia flags down a passing transport vessel against Obi-Wan's directions. Leia introduces herself to the driver as Luma and stammers as she introduces her friend, Father Orden. She continues to repeat the scripted lie that they are farmers from Tool. Leia tells him they got lost, which Freck calls a weird story. Obi-Wan tells him they were looking for the nearest port so they could go home. Freck offers them a ride. Obi-Wan objects, asking only for directions, but Leia happily takes the offer for the ride. Freck happily lets them on, and Obi-Wan notices the Imperial flag on his rear gate. On the way, Freck asks again where they come from, to which Leia replies Tool. Freck expresses praise for the people of Tool for listening to the Empire. Leia keeps the ruse up as they come by 4 stormtroopers. Freck invites them onto the transport, and introduces them to Luma and Orden. When Freck asks the troopers what they were up to, they respond that they were assigned to look for a Jedi. Freck expresses worry, but the trooper assures him that they always find Jedi. Along the trip, a trooper asks Obi-Wan if he is a miner. Obi-Wan replies the same story of being a farmer from Tool. The trooper asks why they were on the planet, and Leia creates a story about visiting their mother's home planet. The trooper asks what they know about a Jedi in the area. Obi-Wan accidentally says Leia instead of Luma, and a trooper calls him on it. He tells them that was her mother's name, and Freck comes to the stop for the troopers. Obi-Wan is asked to keep an eye out for the Jedi as the crew departs. Leia and Obi-Wan take some relief in the close call. Leia tells him she can see that he knew her real mother and asks him if he is her real father. Obi-Wan tells her he is not and talks about how Jedi are taken from their families when they are young. He vaguely recalls a baby brother as his last memory before joining the Jedi. The transporter arrives at an inspection point, where Obi-Wan becomes visibly anxious. Freck tells him it's a standard procedure and gets out to greet a stormtrooper. Freck is asked about the two, and he whispers that the trooper should check them out. Obi-Wan puts up his hood and tells the trooper that they are looking for transport back to Tal. The trooper tells them to step off while calling to initiate Protocol 23. Leia and Obi-Wan step down, and Leia sees his blaster. The probe droid approaches and Obi-Wan is commanded to raise his head. The droid positively identifies Obi-Wan before he draws his blaster and takes out the troopers before knocking out Freck. He kills the last trooper who tries taking Leia hostage and runs with her through the checkpoint. They are immediately stopped by a group of female stormtroopers led by a female captain. The captain quickly turns and shoots each of the troopers before revealing herself as Tala Jurith, their contact. Obi-Wan and Leia follow her. The Inquisitors track the destroyed probe droid they sent to Mapuzo, and Fifth Brother tells Reva that he already delivered the news to Vader, who was most pleased. Reva replies that he knows who will stand by Vader's side when this is over. Another Inquisitor orders the closing of all ports. Obi-Wan and Leia arrive at a village with Tala, who tells them that they had gone from the rendezvous point by the time she arrived. Obi-Wan confesses that he didn't expect anyone to come. Tala tells him that she knows a pilot who can get them off the planet, but that he isn't scheduled to leave for some time, so they need to lay low in the meantime. Leia confesses to Obi-Wan that she didn't mean to cause trouble by running away. Obi-Wan reassures Leia that their predicament is not her fault. Tala motions them to the safe house and they meet NEDB, a loader droid. Leia introduces it to her droid by its designation L0LA59. Tala tells her that NEDB is programmed not to communicate. Tala tells her that actions speak louder than words as NEDB opens the secret passageway. She tells Obi-Wan that he isn't the first Jedi to be led through this underground railroad to freedom. It is a pathway to get to Jabium, a planet where Jedi are given new identities. Leia asks if only Jedi use it, and Tala tells her that the Empire now goes after everyone who is Force-sensitive, including children. Tala doesn't know what happens to these children, except that they are never seen again. Obi-Wan recognizes the mark of Quinlan, someone who Tala says helps with the smuggling of younglings. Obi-Wan reads the markings out loud. Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see. Leia asks what the way. Nedby answers a call at the front door by stormtroopers searching for the Jedi seen searching the camp. The stormtrooper asks NEDB if it saw that, but another trooper tells him that the loader wouldn't understand. Nedby secretly clutches a hammer behind his back. Tala calls to her pilot and tells him to get ready. As she changes outfits, Leia asks her if it's scary having to pretend. Tala admits that it is, but she does it to help people. As she straps on her blaster, Leia asks if she can teach her how to shoot, at which point Obi-Wan interjects. As Leia gets herself ready, Obi-Wan asks Tala how she got involved. Tala joined the Empire early when she believed in what she thought they stood for. She says that she can't imagine Obi-Wan Kenobi making the mistakes she had made, to which Obi-Wan replies, "It's just Ben." Tala introduces herself to before leading him and Leia down a pathway. Obi-Wan suddenly stops as he feels a great disturbance in the Force. They run to a door vent where they can see Vader entering the village. Obi-Wan presses Leia to go the way Tala told her as they watch Vader torturing and killing families in the village in an effort to draw out Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan sends Leia with Tala, promising to keep him away. When Vader senses Obi-Wan, Reva attempts to follow him, but Fifth Brother stops her. Obi-Wan continues to run away but is confronted by Vader, who lights his lightsaber. As Obi-Wan runs, Vader turns it off and calls out to Obi-Wan, who quickly lights his lightsaber to see. Vader appears in front of him. Obi-Wan asks, "What have you become?" "I am what you made me," Vader responds. Obi-Wan turns off his saber and runs again. Reva inspects the safe house as NEDB leaves. She notices the concealed entrance. Obi-Wan is engaged again by Vader in a full-on lightsaber battle. Obi-Wan is visibly less prepared, which Vader taunts. Leia convinces Tala to let her go on her own so she can back up Obi-Wan. Vader continues to press Obi-Wan. Reva makes her way into the passageway and recognizes the symbol of the Republic. Vader captures Obi-Wan using the Force as he lights a shipment of incendiary grenades on the ground with his lightsaber. He forces Obi-Wan into the fire, badly burning his right arm and side body. Tala arrives as Vader forces Obi-Wan away before ordering his stormtroopers to bring him over. Tala distracts them as NEDB arrives to carry Obi-Wan away. The stormtroopers shoot at NEDB while Vader watches before turning away. Fifth brother finds out that Obi-Wan escaped and becomes furious. Tala tells NEDB to get Obi-Wan's transport to Jabium ready. Leia gets to the meeting point but encounters Reva, who she immediately distrusts. Reva attempts to coax her, but Leia runs when she sees the pilot's dead body. Part 4. Obi-Wan wakes up in a transport ship being piloted by Tala. When they arrive on Jabium, Tala has him brought to a Bacta tank to treat his burns from the fight. Darth Vader is recovering as well, and the two seem to recall the same moments of their duel. Obi-Wan violently awakens and asks Tala where Leia is. At the Inquisitor base, Leia sits as a prisoner of Inquisitor Reva. She tells Leia that Obi-Wan is dead, and no one is coming for her. Tala introduces Obi-Wan to Roken, a rebel who tells them that Obi-Wan needs to get off Jabium immediately. Roken initially refuses, but Tala explains to him that Leia will give away all their information to the Empire. Tala says that if they are discovered, they will need to evacuate. When Roken relents again, Obi-Wan insists that he helped to find Leia and get her away from the Empire. Roken tells Obi-Wan that his wife was Force-sensitive. The Empire eventually hunted her down and had her killed by an Inquisitor. He finally agrees to help. The Inquisitor base Fortress Inquisitorius is on a water planet Emur in the Mustafar system. Though Vader isn't on the planet, his signal was detected on a nearby ship. Obi-Wan attempts to plan an extraction, and Tala offers her Imperial officer clearance as a way of getting them in. She can Obi-Wan fly to the planet Emur. On the way, Obi-Wan practices using the Force as Tala reminds him not to overdo it on account of his injury. Reva attempts to extract information about the path from Leia. Leia asks how Obi-Wan died. Reva lies that he burned to death on Mapuzo. She tells Leia that if she gives her information about the path, she will take her home. Leia feels her dishonesty and lies that she knows nothing of a path. Reva doesn't believe her. Tala arrives at the fortress on her ship. Tala reluctantly offers her clearance ID to the guard, who refuses to let her through as this is not her sector. She professes her position as his commanding officer, and tells him that he will address her as Sir, and allow her to bring classified evidence to the Grand Inquisitor. When Tala makes it to the control room, she radios Obi-Wan with the location as he swims underneath. Obi-Wan enters and takes out a curious stormtrooper before making his way in. Reva attempts to use the Force to extract the location from Leia, but is unsuccessful. Reva captures Lola and tells Leia about how she had her own droid when she was young, but that it was taken from her along with everything else. Tala thinks out loud to Obi-Wan over the radio of how massive the fortress is, wondering what they are keeping in it. Obi-Wan continues to head to the prison sector as Tala is approached by another commander, inquiring why she is at a post that is not hers. She leaves the voice communicator at her station with Obi-Wan alone at the other end. He avoids a seeker droid as Tala handles the other commander. A parade of stormtroopers pass by Obi-Wan commenting on their discomfort with the fortress. Tala comes back to the communicator and calls to Ben over the radio, which the stormtroopers hear. They ready their blasters and turn around. Obi-Wan uses the Force to create a distraction for them so he can get away. Reva continues to try to scare Leia into giving up information. Leia uses Reva's words against her by trying to get her to communicate with Bail Organa on Alderaan, since we're all on the same side. Reva sees through it immediately and orders 2 stormtroopers to take her to prison. Tala checks in with Obi-Wan, who is able to open doors to a secure sector. Leia is placed into a restraint, her arms and legs bound. Obi-Wan enters from the opposite side, and relays to Tala that he has found a tomb of several dead, presumably Jedi, encased in what appear as amber cells. Reva demands answers from a much more frightened Leia. As Obi-Wan walks the tomb, he recognizes several faces, including that of a youngling killed on Coruscant during the initial execution of Order 66. He heard Leia's cries for help and Reva prepares to kill her the same way. He asks Tala to provide a distraction, Tala appears behind Reva and calls her to an important meeting. Reva of course delays the torture of the little girl and following the officer into another closed room. Tala gives Reva a diversion story regarding the path and Reva questions the circumstances. Obi-Wan shuts down the sector and takes out the 2 stormtroopers before freeing Leia. Reva continues to analyze Tala's cover story as a front, which Tala argues. A seeker droid notices and follows Obi-Wan and Leia down the hallway. Reva decides to let Tala live and orders her to be interrogated. At that moment, the seeker alarm goes off, and Reva immediately departs. Obi-Wan radios Tala, who quickly takes out both troopers single-handedly. Obi-Wan faces down the seeker and more stormtroopers which guarding Leia. While engaging another set of stormtroopers, a blast deflects to the underwater window. Obi-Wan uses the Force to hold the leak so Tala can escape with Leia. The troopers make their way through as Obi-Wan directs the flood toward them. Tala closes the door just in time for Obi-Wan to escape. He dons a commander's uniform, hiding Leia in the trenchcoat. Fifth brother commands the entire fortress shut down, citing Reva as the culprit for the chaos. Obi-Wan and Leia walk with Tala to the dock, where they are found by Reva, who orders a team of stormtroopers to take aim at the 3. 2 speeder vehicles ambush the Imperial Guard, giving the 3 an opportunity to escape. The second rebel pilot, Wade, is killed by Reva, who forces a bomb to explode by his ship. As Reva watches the ship fly away as Vader's breath is heard. Vader holds Reva in the air with the Force, but lets her down when she reveals that she let Obi-Wan get away. Reva tells him that she placed a tracer on his ship, so that they may find the true path. Fifth brother again presses for Reva's punishment, but Reva sympathizes with Vader's search for Kenobi. He asks her to confirm that the tracker is with him. She assures him that where he goes, it will follow. Tala, Obi-Wan, Leia, and the pilot return to the rebel transport ship. Roken immediately asks about Wade. Tala makes an effort to console the pilot, who takes the loss hard. Leia holds Obi-Wan's hand and relaxes into feeling safe with him. The Lola droid lights up red, indicating where Reva put her tracking device. Part 5. In a flashback on Coruscant, Obi-Wan trains his Padawan learner Anakin in lightsaber combat. Vader comes back from his memory to meet with Reva. Reva tells Vader that they were able to track Obi-Wan to Jabim. Vader rewards her by making her the Grand Inquisitor. The ship carrying Obi-Wan and Leia arrives on Jabim. Obi-Wan immediately notices Hajar, who tells him about his meeting with Reva in Part 2. Obi-Wan asks Roken how soon he can expect to get Leia back to Alderaan. Roken explains equals 7 INS that the transportation window is closing, and once everyone gets off Jabim, so will Leia. Obi-Wan offers any help he can offer. As they approach Jabim, Vader orders Reva to seal the facility. The Lola droid carries out the instruction. Obi-Wan sees several lightsaber hilts gathered together in a small case as Lola closes the hatch. Everyone is alerted to Vader and the hatching. Obi-Wan says that Vader doesn't have the patience for a siege, and would attack directly. Flashing back to Coruscant, Obi-Wan warns Anakin of his aggression as the latter continues to press on with his offensive. In the present, Vader orders the attack on the Jabim facility. Inside, Obi-Wan plans an escape with Roken. A battalion of stormtroopers arrives before Reva comes in to give the command to fire. Inside, Leia volunteers to help inside of a wiring vent. Obi-Wan tasks Hajar to watch Leia as he takes a holo message from Bail Organa. He says that he will go to Tatooine if he does not hear from Obi-Wan soon, so that he can help Owen with Luke. Tala speaks to Obi-Wan and explains how the Empire tasked her to gather 14 people, 6 of them children, to be killed for being Force sensitive. She tells him that there are some things you can't forget, but you can fight to make them better. Obi-Wan comes out and sends a message to Reva that he wants to meet with her. Obi-Wan asks her how she knew that Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker. Obi-Wan deduces that she was a youngling during Order 66. She saw him killing the other younglings, but Reva cuts off Obi-Wan before he can go any further. She tells him how terrified she was of Anakin, thinking he had come to help them. To survive, Reva played dead among the other bodies. Reva's quest for revenge turned to Obi-Wan because he trained Anakin. Obi-Wan suggests they work together. Reva tells him how well she works alone before using her lightsaber to break open the door. The stormtroopers invade and Obi-Wan works with Roken, Tala, and others to hold them back. Leia continues to look for the correct circuit to connect while Hajar calls to her. Tala is shot and uses a thermal detonator to clear Reva and the troopers out of the path so that Obi-Wan can get away. Vader orders Reva to stand down, figuring Obi-Wan is as good as captured. In the flashback to the duel, Anakin corners Obi-Wan and holds him down until he admits defeat. In the present, Obi-Wan says, "It's over." Roken tries to stop Obi-Wan from going to surrender, but Obi-Wan turns over his lightsaber and communicator to Haja. As Leia looks around the circuit board, Lola is seen hiding. Obi-Wan is brought to Reva. He tells her that she isn't bringing him to Vader. He is bringing Vader to her. Obi-Wan asks if Reva would allow Vader to do to the families and children in the bunker the same thing she watched him do to what she considered a family at the Jedi Temple. He offers to help her end it with him. Flashback to the duel. Anakin disarms Obi-Wan and proclaims victory, but Obi-Wan warns him of blind faith. Vader arrives on Jabium and Reva tells him that Obi-Wan is being kept safe. Obi-Wan gets away from the two troopers who are guarding him as Leia finds the restraining bolt controlling Lola. Vader searches for Obi-Wan. Leia and Lola work together to open the hatch door. Obi-Wan arrives in time to get on the transport, but Haja accidentally drops the comm unit. Vader stops a ship from taking off, but finds out that it was a decoy, and the real transport heads into space. In the flashback, Obi-Wan manages to take Anakin's lightsaber from him, and finishes explaining that he must get over his pride in order to become a Jedi Knight. Vader looks up as Reva approaches and lights her saber. Darth Vader humors Reva's challenge. She is no match for him, and he runs a saber through her. As Reva lies on the ground, Vader reintroduces her to the Grand Inquisitor she thought she had killed on Daiyu. He takes her Grand Inquisitor badge and replaces it on himself. Everyone leaves Reva to die. The transport leaves Jabium, and Roken tells Obi-Wan that their hyperdrive is down. Reva notices the holocom that Haja dropped, and replays part of Bail Organa's message. On Tatooine, young Luke Skywalker sleeps. Part 6. In a city on Tatooine, a ruffian is subdued by Reva, who asks for information on a farmer named Owen. The refugee ship evades a Star Destroyer captained by Darth Vader. Roken tells the passengers the plan to get everyone to Tessin, and Obi-Wan speaks to him about how long it will take to get away. Obi-Wan talks to Leia. Owen and Luke visit a mechanic in town, and Owen is approached by the man Reva spoke to earlier. Leia argues with Obi-Wan about leaving her on the ship without him, but her tells her that Vader will follow him. As Roken and other refugees begin to voice their arguments, Obi-Wan tells them that they are the future, and must survive. Leia shouts, "No," and storms off. Haja suggests Obi-Wan give her space, and Obi-Wan tasks him with getting Leia back to Alderaan. Owen tells Beru about the person who asked about him. He tells her they need to leave with Luke to hide. Beru refuses to abandon her home, and removes blasters from storage before handing one to Owen. She tells him it's best they position themselves before the suns go down, and leads the way. On the ship, Haja preps Leia to speak to Obi-Wan before he departs. As a parting gift, Obi-Wan gives her Tala's belt and holster. He promises to come back to see her. Sitting alone with his lightsaber, Obi-Wan calls out to Qui-gon, telling him he will end it today. Roken comes to bring Obi-Wan to his ship, but calls Obi-Wan out on having a personal interest in Face Vader. Obi-Wan tells Roken to keep everyone safe, and he replies, "Keep yourself safe." Before they part, Obi-Wan encourages Roken to continue leading. Obi-Wan diverts Darth Vader to a nearby planet to face him alone, giving the refugee ship time to escape the Star Destroyer. The Grand Inquisitor reminds Vader that they should prioritize extinguishing the refugee network rather than pursue Obi-Wan. Darth Vader emphasizes that he is not just any Jedi, and gives the order to follow. The Grand Inquisitor follows his order without question. On Tatooine, Owen brings Luke to a panic room, and tells him that Tuskens are raiding nearby farms. He tells Luke to run if things go south. Obi-Wan lands on the planet and prepares himself as Vader takes an Imperial cruiser down. Obi-Wan notices the Lola droid in his pocket, and he leaves it on the ship's dash. Reva's approach on the Lars farm triggers the alarms. Owen and Beru prepare themselves to engage the intruder. Vader's ship lands and he steps out. Obi-Wan faces Vader with much more skill than before. Reva tracks down the Lars farm, but is immediately ambushed by Owen and Beru. Vader notices the return of Obi-Wan's strength using the Force. He then buries Obi-Wan under several large stones before leaving him for dead. Owen fights Reva, who tells him she is seeking justice before knocking him off a catwalk to the panic room. Owen calls to Beru, who hits Reva as Luke climbs out to escape. Reva goes out and pursues Luke on foot. Under the stones, Obi-Wan struggles to use the Force. His memories with Leia and Luke give him the strength to break free and follow Vader. The two fight again, with Obi-Wan showing Vader the same use of the Force he had shown with the rocks. After he finishes, the two fight again. Reva continues following Lul in the desert at night. Obi-Wan strikes Vader's breathing apparatus before striking his helmet. Vader falls damages, but not wounded. Obi-Wan calls to Anakin, who replies, in Hayden Christensen's voice, "Anakin is gone. I am what remains." Obi-Wan apologizes to him, but Darth Vader replies, "I am not your failure. You did not kill Anakin Skywalker. I did." Obi-Wan accepts that he cannot turn Anakin back, and leaves him. Vader calls out to Obi-Wan as he kneels down. As Obi-Wan boards his ship, he sees Luke being captured by Reva, and sets a light-speed course for Padawan. Reva approaches an unconscious Luke and prepares to deliver the final blow. She sees visions of Darth Vader as her and her younger self as Luke. Obi-Wan lands at the Lars farm and joins them in the search. Reva approaches, carrying the unconscious, but unharmed, boy. Owen and Beru gleefully take Luke back to their farm. Reva collapses crying and confesses to Obi-Wan that she failed the ones killed by not killing Luke. Obi-Wan tells her that, by showing mercy, she has given the fallen peace. Reva asks if she has become Darth Vader. He tells her that she chose not to, and whoever she becomes is up to her. Reva rises and drops her lightsaber. Obi-Wan tells her that now they are both free. On Mustafar, Vader reports to the Emperor about the probes searching for Obi-Wan. The Emperor questions Vader's motives in pursuing Kenobi to such an extent. As he begins to tell Vader to let go of his past, Vader sits back and says, "Kenobi means nothing. I serve only you, my master." The transmission ends. On Alderaan, Leia dresses herself, including the boots, gloves, and belt that Obi-Wan gave her. Her mother encourages Leia's choice of dress, and proudly presents her to Bail. Leia asks who they are meeting, and is delighted to see Obi-Wan with Lola. Obi-Wan speaks with the Organas, and offers his help should they ever need it in the future. Obi-Wan asks Leia what she thinks he should do, and she tells him he should sleep. The two laugh before Obi-Wan tells Leia that she is very much like both of her parents, but calls her Princess Leia Organa. He then tells her that no one can know of their encounter or it could endanger them both. They hug, and Obi-Wan says, "May the Force be with you." Leia goes back to her parents as Obi-Wan departs to return to Padawan. Back home, Obi-Wan packs away everything before riding to the Lars farm. Owen asks why he is there, and Obi-Wan tells him that he and Beru are all Luke needs for protection. Before he leaves, Owen calls out to Ben, asking if he would like to meet Luke. Obi-Wan greets Luke before leaving into the desert toward Beggar's Canyon. There, he encounters the Force ghost of Qui-gon Jinn, who tells him he was always there, but Obi-Wan was not ready to see. Obi-Wan laughs and follows Qui-gon into the canyon.